And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Few voices in the history of music are as instantly recognizable as that of Louis Armstrong. That deep, gravelly, yet impossibly warm tone that seemed to carry both the sorrow of the blues and the joy of a smile. When Armstrong sang, it wasn't just a melody, it was a conversation with life itself. His trumpet soared with dazzling brilliance, and his voice, rough-edged yet tender, became the very sound of American jazz. He was not simply a performer, he was a force of nature, a man whose charisma, humor, and humanity radiated through every note he played. Armstrong, affectionately known as Satchmo or Pops, didn't just play jazz, he transformed it. At a time when jazz was largely a collective, ensemble-driven art form, Armstrong pioneered the art of the solo, stepping into the spotlight with improvised trumpet lines so bold, so inventive, that they forever redefined what jazz could be. His fearless phrasing, daring syncopations, and ability to bend time and tone opened the door for future generations of musicians to see jazz not just as entertainment, but as an expressive art, where the personality of one voice, one horn, could change everything. But it wasn't only his musical genius that captivated the world. Armstrong was larger than life in every sense. His laughter, his wide grin, his sparkle of mischief, all of it made him a beacon of joy. He had a magnetic presence, one that could light up a stage, a radio broadcast, or even just a casual gathering with friends. Despite all his fame, he never lost his warmth. He was approachable, generous, and endlessly funny. A man who carried a spirit of celebration wherever he went. That spirit was born not from privilege, but from hardship. Armstrong grew up in the rough streets of New Orleans, in poverty so severe that his early years were marked by struggle and survival. His father abandoned the family, and his mother often had to leave him with relatives while she worked. Young Louis found himself in the colored waif's home for boys after a scrape with the law. It was there, in the confines of reform, that he picked up a cornet and began to play. That simple act, learning to coax melody from brass, was the moment that changed everything. Music became his escape, his passion, and ultimately, his gift to the world. Through relentless practice and unshakable determination, Armstrong rose from the poorest corners of New Orleans to the grandest stages on earth. He became a household name, a global ambassador of jazz, and a symbol of resilience. His journey embodied the American dream, but with a swing, a grin, and a horn. By the 1960s, Armstrong was more than a musician, he was a cultural icon. His rendition of Hello, Dolly displaced the Beatles at the top of the charts. His recording of What a Wonderful World became an anthem of hope, love, and humanity. Everywhere he went, his presence reminded audiences that, even in the hardest times, joy and beauty could be found. Among the many friendships he forged in the entertainment world, one of the most special was with Pearl Bailey. Pearl was herself a dazzling star, an actress, singer, and entertainer, with a voice as rich and a personality as magnetic as Armstrong's. The two shared not only the stage, but also a deep mutual respect and affection. They admired each other's artistry, and they cherished the warmth of a friendship that was as playful as it was genuine. Pearl's humor and grace matched Armstrong's charm, and together they created a bond that transcended show business. This makes the letter you are about to hear all the more poignant. Written on July 1, 1971, from his home in Corona, Queens, just 5 days before his death. It is Armstrong's last surviving letter, addressed with affection to his dear friend Pearl Bailey. He writes not as a legend or an icon, but as a man back from the hospital, fragile, yet still full of humor and love. He talks about his wife Lucille's surprises, about music, about food, about memories from his childhood in New Orleans, and above all, he writes with warmth, sending encouragement, laughter, and friendship to Pearl, even as his own life was slipping away. It is the letter of a man who never stopped swinging, never stopped loving, never stopped sharing joy with those around him. Even at the very end, Louis Armstrong's heart beat in rhythm with the music of life, and his words, like his songs, remind us that, indeed, it was a wonderful world.
Corona, Queens, July 1, 1971. My dear Madam Pearl, well, here I am, back home from the hospital, and let me tell you, it feels good to be sitting in my own den again, writing to you. Lucille done surprised me with a big, beautiful lot right next door to our home. Been trying to buy it for 19 years. She had a patio and a wet bar built, and the landscaping is something else. When I got home and saw all these goodies going for me, honey, it hung me. I'm still weak, but my spirit's high, and your letters keep me swinging. That time in the hospital was rough. Intensive care ain't no picnic, no music at all, which was a drag. But once they moved me to a private room among the VIP patients, I started feeling alive again. Big room full of flowers, mail, and presents from all over the world. 3 private nurses round the clock, and 3 delicious meals a day, which I ate like a dog. Oh yeah, I never lost my appetite, no matter how sick I was. Always loved Jewish food ever since I was a little boy in New Orleans. My mama worked for a lovely Jewish family, and I'd go to her job, and they'd fix me a fine Jewish dinner, matzo balls and all. I'm thinking about you out there with the Hello Dolly company. How's my man Louis Belson? Give him a big hello from Lucille and me. He plays those drums so beautifully. I got quite a few of your albums, love 'em all. Especially the risque one. Them big words are gonna bust my vest yet. Tell Cab Calloway and the gang I'm rooting for 'em. I'm hoping to blow my horn again soon, Pearl. Ain't nothing like making folks smile with music. Keep swinging, my dear, and write me soon. Your letters are like a good jazz riff. Keep my heart in tune. Red beans and ricely yours, Satchmo. Louis Armstrong.
The letter you have just heard was written only 5 days before Louis Armstrong's death, yet its tone is unmistakably his. Even after enduring a massive heart attack and weeks in intensive care, his humor and warmth still radiate from every line. He jokes about food, about records, about friends on the road. He describes his appetite with comic exaggeration and recalls childhood memories with a wink. This was classic Louis, refusing to let illness steal his joy, turning even frailty into a kind of performance. And yet, beneath the playful tone, there is a quiet melancholy. We hear a man who knows his body is failing, who admits he is weak, who leans on letters from friends to keep his spirits up. The light-hearted humor cannot completely mask the shadow of mortality. The laughter is real, but it is laughter against the silence pressing in. Armstrong was a man who lived for music, for energy, for connection with people. In these words, you feel the tension between his irrepressible optimism and the reality of his failing health. The last years of Armstrong's life were marked by this duality. On stage, he was still radiant, smiling, joking, holding audiences in the palm of his hand. But off stage, his health was crumbling. Years of relentless touring, combined with a lifelong love of rich food, heavy smoking, and the physical demands of trumpet playing, left his heart weakened. In the late 1960s, he suffered repeated heart and kidney troubles. Doctors warned him to stop performing, but he refused for as long as he could. For Armstrong, music was life itself. To put down the horn was to surrender to silence. On July 6, 1971, in his home in Corona, Queens, Louis Armstrong died in his sleep of a heart attack. He was 69 years old. The news sent ripples of grief across the world. For millions, it felt as if a friend had been lost, not just a musician. His funeral in New York drew thousands, with musicians, celebrities, and ordinary fans lining the streets to pay tribute. The man who had risen from the poorest corners of New Orleans had become a global icon, and even in death, his voice lingered everywhere. In the decades that followed, Armstrong's legacy only grew. More than perhaps any other figure, he made jazz a music beloved across continents. Before Armstrong, jazz was often dismissed as local, rough, even disreputable. With him, it became universal. He turned improvisation into art. He made solo performance central, and his recordings traveled across oceans, shaping musicians from Paris to Tokyo. He was, in every sense, a world ambassador of jazz, carrying its rhythms, its humor, and its humanity wherever he went. Among his many masterpieces, one stands apart for its enduring power. What a Wonderful World. Recorded in 1967, at a time when America was torn by war in Vietnam and racial unrest at home, the song seemed almost impossibly gentle, even naive. Its lyrics are simple: the colors of trees, the smiles of strangers, the promise of children growing. Yet in Armstrong's gravelly voice, the song becomes something else entirely. His delivery carries both wisdom and weariness, joy and sorrow. You hear in it not blind optimism, but a hard-earned faith that even after all the ugliness of the world, there remains beauty worth cherishing. That tension between pain and hope is what makes the song timeless. For this reason, Armstrong's legacy cannot be reduced to just his musicianship. He was a man who rose from poverty and hardship to lift millions with his music. Friends and fans affectionately called him Satchmo, short for Satchel Mouth, a playful nod to the size of his mouth when playing the trumpet and pops, a name that reflected his warm paternal presence among fellow musicians. These nicknames tell us something vital. He was at once the joker and the mentor, the playful clown, and the guiding father figure of jazz. Though his trumpet fell silent in 1971, his sound has never faded. Each time we hear "Hello, Dolly," or "What a Wonderful World," his gravelly, golden voice returns, reminding us of a man who chose joy even when the world gave him every reason for sorrow. In that rasp, we hear both the scars of struggle and the embrace of love. And perhaps this is his truest legacy, that Louis Armstrong, with his broad grin, his childlike humor, and a voice unlike any other showed us that music could cross every border, unite every heart, and keep hope alive, even in the face of death. He remains a timeless reminder that the world, through laughter, through swing, through a trumpet's call, can still be wonderful.